let's get
Go
to
ahead.
that, to the gun piece, because I think that that's obviously a perfect illustration of what you're talking about. Now, in the Senate right now, it looks like there may be a bill that will go to the floor with universal background checks. It looks like assault weapons have been taken off the table a couple days ago.
Right.
What's the status of that, and how is it that even after? I mean, I just think it's just such an illustration of what you're saying. It's like, how could, essentially, how many of these tragedies need to happen? How many poll numbers need to shift? And is the real problem that there is still just an intensity level on the side of gun lunacy that isn't matched by gun sanity, for lack of a better term? Like, what, or is it just corporate money? What's the holdup here?
Like so many other things, it's not one factor; it's a combination. Part of that is, again, yes, the media getting used to the new narrative. I predict to you after 2014, the new narrative will be set, because these guys who especially those who are in what you would call it all vulnerable districts, some of them, including Paul Ryan, including Johnny Isakson of Georgia, and a bunch of others, seem to be in favor of background checks, as of a month ago, and some of them may still be in the end. The argument right now on background checks is over whether records will be kept. It's not to say that if background checks are done and records aren't kept, they still won't be more effective than not having them, because you'll stop people at the point of sale. And you can prosecute them who are trying to illegally buy guns, who should not be, who are criminals, and you can stop people that have been adjudicated mentally ill and shouldn't be able to buy them. So there's still a lot of we need that. At the same time, you're hampering some of the effectiveness of it if you just destroy records immediately that you keep on people. It makes it, even people that legally buy guns, if they go and then commit an illegal act, it's much easier to trace and find them. Again, it's another example of the pro-criminal, pro-terrorist lobby known as the NRA, and the people and Republicans, and frankly too many Democrats who, by extension, become pro-criminal and pro-terrorist because of the NRA. And already the stuff that groups like Credo, Move On, other progressive groups have done, not to mention what Mayor Bloomberg has done in this effort. And again, as I always do, we'll disclose that I've worked closely with Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and Mayor Bloomberg is one of the co-chairs, as are many Democratic mayors in addition to that around the country. But continuing from there, the things have changed, and yet the media sort of picked it up. They've started writing these stories, but this always takes longer than it should. I mean, this race in Chicago where the NRA stooge lost, Joe Baca, who was ousted from his seat out in Los Angeles in 2012 based upon spending against him as an NRA stooge. Numerous other races in places like Michigan, the Attorney General in Pennsylvania, who is great on guns and was largely supported by Mayors Against Legal Guns and won. There's a number of races where you could say that people who are fighting for sane gun laws have made the difference. Stopping in 2010, one of the people we fought against and helped stop because he failed to prosecute a corrupt gun dealer who then became a contributor was Ken Buck. Remember that crazy guy from Colorado?
Yeah, sure do.
And that became a huge story out there and ended up being part of his undoing. A big part of it. So, as more of this happens, and I predict to you that from stuff I've heard on the inside that I sadly can't share with all of you, but stuff that I see going on the outside too, there's going to be a reckoning in 2014 for people that refuse to do the right thing on this issue, particularly on background checks that has 90% plus support. It has 87% support in Oklahoma. It has 90% support in North Carolina. Okay.
Right.
I mean, really.
No, when you're talking about background checks, you're getting into the level of do you support legislation to ban someone coming up to your front door and smacking you in the face? I mean, it's so obvious how it can be.
But I don't mean to cut you off, but even
please.
on the 10 bullet limit. Right. I mean, Colorado just passed a law, and in the state legislature that's going to be signed that limits it to 15. New York went even further than the federal law would and limited it to 7. Right now what they're trying to do federally is 10. I think there's still a good shot, but I'm telling you, no pun intended, and I didn't even mean that. But if they come out against that, for people who come out against that, then people like me are going to be very clear what you're for. You're for, I don't want to actually say their names because they don't deserve the fame. You're for the Aurora shooter with the 100 drum
Yes.
magazine, walking into a movie theater and shooting 70 people, dismembering people. You're for the shooter in Newtown, Connecticut, to be able to go in and shoot kids up, little children, to the point where people can't actually make out who they are. Okay, that's what you're for. Now, right? Because there's no sporting purpose to those. There's no defense purpose to those. They're offensive weapons of war. That is what they're made for. And people like me and other people who have a lot more money than me are going to be very clear about that when we're heading into 2014. I promise you. So I think things are changing. But you're right. When you ask what has to happen, part of it did with Newtown. There were some actually people of conscience, people I respect, who didn't see things exactly the same way as I did. Whether there are people who are Democrats, even a few Republicans, who've changed on this and seem to legitimately have had a heartfelt change. I mean, one of them seems to be, for example, the Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, Bob Casey.
Absolutely, yes.
Who is not good on this issue and literally seems to have a heartfelt change on this issue because of what and so there have been those stories of people that actually, the human being side as opposed to the politician side of them, have come out. But most of these people still, by definition, even though the media, the mainstream media, the progressive media, people are involved on this issue like they haven't been in years, there still are many people that are politicians first, most of them. And some of them have determined they can support this stuff in the district they're in. Others have determined, well, I might not. And they still don't get what they're up against. They still don't get that the NRA lost 6 of 7 Senate races where they spent real money in 2012. They lost a race against Obama where they spent $18 million overall. That is, in studies that Paul Waldman did for the Center for American Progress, pointed out that the NRA has little to no effect on any election they get involved in because they spread their money so
the
thin.
NRA is a paper tiger, and politicians
That's exactly
need to
right.
get
They
that.
are a paper tiger,
Yeah.
and for some reason, though, the myth has been largely damaged. Wayne LaPierre opening his frothing, sick mouth, and yes, he frothed at the mouth on TV when he talked about guns, so think about that. He's a frickin' animal. But, a lot of this has changed things. And there's no doubt we're in a different place than we were even a couple months ago. But we're still not exactly where we needed to be. There's still some politicians that think the NRA's got their back, and they're in more conservative districts, and that's going to help them. And when I say more conservative districts where the polling will only show, 78% of people support background checks, universal background checks, right?
Absolutely.
And the 10 bullet limit, which by the way has a majority in virtually all districts, also. So there's going to be a reckoning. And there are going to be some people that are going to pay the price who haven't looked at Joe Baca and Debbie Halverson and other people and seen what can happen to them. They're going to see. I promise you that. So,
that's great. That's very encouraging. I love the bullishness. So lay down 2014 as a marker where politicians will start to pay real consequences for having no concern and no fundamental commitment to the health and security of a vast majority of the American population through this incredible irresponsible approach.
They're not for
control.
gun rights.
Yes.
That's what they say they're for. They're anti-public safety.
They're
anti-children. They're anti-cop. And that is what they truly are. They are people that support domestic terrorists and arms dealers. That is what they are because they think it benefits them politically. And they're going to find out, a lot of them are, that it doesn't benefit them politically. So, when you ask what has to happen, I think we need that one sea change election.
Yes.
Where instead of a few guys here and a few guys there, a whole bunch of these guys get knocked out. I think that could have been 2012, but 2012 was before Newtown, and the media wasn't covering it in the manner in which they are now. Had that happened, had Newtown happened, and then 2012, and then the NRA had their 0.83% return on investment, as the Sunlight Foundation pointed out, the worst of any group, I think that we would be in a better place. But, things happen the way they happen in life, and it didn't happen until afterwards. So we need that next election after.
I have to say, so that's very encouraging. And I just have to say, before we move on to make a jump here to the next topic, just on a human level, it is so just devastating and depressing that event needs to even be discussed. Which it literally does need to be, because gun control is the policy issue. That's the public issue as a consequence of that event. But on a human, on a broader level, it is so devastating that it even needs to be discussed as anything other than just this horrific, profound tragedy, but we have to discuss it because the reality is there's reasons behind it. And the reasons behind it.
Well, and that's the right's game. Don't politicize. Don't politicize.
Right.
They've politicized a public health issue.
Absolutely.
I didn't politicize it.
Right.
I'm not an ideologue on this issue.
Right.
I look at what public health tells me. I look at what studies tell me. And public health is something I care a lot about. It especially is one of these things. When it comes to the life of life and death, frankly, in cities, it's something that and so it affects. It comes down, influences my feelings on a variety of issues, from drinking to smoking to a whole host of things, and. This is another issue where there are a variety of solutions. A combination. It's not just about gun laws, although that's a big part of it. There's a mental health aspect to it. There's a big cultural aspect to it, which I'm trying to work on too. And when it got to the point where if you blew smoke in the same room as your 4-year-old, people looked at you like you had two heads,
Absolutely.
or you thought it was funny that you got in a car and drove drunk and crashed into something. People looked at you that way. That's the way it's going to be soon when you walk around openly with your gun, or you leave your gun unsecured in your home, or other things. And that's the point we need to get to culturally. So there's really a whole number of things that need to change. But demographically, when it comes to that, you brought up the intensity. The sad thing is there's a growing, larger and larger number of intense people who are in favor of gun safety because, sadly, because of people like the NRA and their stooges, they've been affected by this issue because people they know have been hurt or killed. And that's going to be as strong. People are going to be just as passionate about this issue as any gun rights, I put that in quotes, nut out there. And they're a growing group because of the tragedy we've unfurled in this country, not just the new towns, but what goes on in this country every day because of our lack of sane gun laws. So I would rather this not be a political issue.
But it
I
is.
would rather abortion
is,
rights not be a political issue.
Absolutely.
But there are a number of things that are social issues that have to do with people's health and welfare that the right has turned into political issues, and so they can't be anything but. There's just
through gross negligence, irresponsibility, and corruption, they become a political issue. And I think that's absolutely right.